Eerily haunting true stories about remote abandoned locations rich in history. Come with us, now travels from state to state, if you dare.
Be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we're gonna get fucking killed.
Hello?
Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hi, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon.
Wherever you're at.
Wherever you're at. Wherever you're listening.
We're excited everyone's going to be joining us today.
I know.
What are we going to be talking
We're
about?
back again.
I know.
We're back again. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just a little tired, you know. It's been a busy week.
It has been. It's only Monday. I know. It's been a crazy Monday, though.
It has been.
At least in my neck of the woods, it has been.
Oh, I took the day off work today. Had to
really
take my son to the doctor, you know.
Sounds really crazy.
Doing my mom stuff.
All right. I just been being a ninja as normal, you know.
Yeah. I heard about your day when I called you. I tried to reach you today. What was happening today at work?
A lot.
I heard.
Typical Monday, you know. A lot of this, a lot of that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
A lot of hits, a lot of slaps.
Yeah.
Not by you. I just want to make it clear. Okay. Just want to make it clear out there.
Right? Oh, man.
So in case
No one
wonders, doesn't know, yeah, we work in special education.
I'm in the MMA.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
I'm in the MMA.
You know what? Half the time it probably is. But you work in special education.
Yeah.
So some days are rougher than others.
Yeah.
But you love your job.
I do.
Yeah. So
Everything about it. The good, the bad, the ugly.
yes.
Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today?
The Virginian, first of all, we went to Wyoming.
Yeah.
And we got to drive to Medicine Bow, Wyoming and see a hotel who is supposed to be one of the most haunted hotels in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Besides, there's two other ones. I think one's in Sheridan, Wyoming. Another one. Well, a lot of hotels over there are.
I know. I think there's, I don't know, today's day, I think everybody that talks about a hotel says that it's haunted for some reason.
Somebody's had an experience somewhere.
Yeah.
I do want to tell a little story about my kids one time when I put them up in a hotel, and I want to say it was Billings, Montana. And
That just sounds creepy.
They were staying overnight because they were going to catch a flight to California. Because, again, I said my oldest, lives in Wyoming. So it was my oldest and my middle child that I put up in this hotel, and I didn't know anything about it. But my daughter has a story where she saw a woman in white walk by.
Oh.
And she got really, really scared. And so she kind of told my older daughter and her girlfriend, like, hey, I think I saw this woman in white. I don't know. I'm like freaking out. I'm a little bit scared. And so, they Googled to see, and supposedly there's a woman in white that walks the halls at this one hotel in Billings, Montana.
Hell.
I know.
To visit Savannah.
I know. Well, we have to check it out one day when we hit up Montana.
Yeah, when we hit up Montana. Yeah.
Take Savannah with us because apparently the spirits
She
like her.
Savannah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, she just had a little experience at work too, I heard.
She did. My daughter works at like what would it be considered, like a residential home for children with like either eating disorders and stuff. I don't want to call up the name of the place, but she kind of works in at overnights. She does overnights to watch the kids that are in these residential homes, and she loves her job, by the way, but it's usually her by herself with the kids sleeping. And so she said that she was, working the other night, and she heard a woman's voice say, "I'm scared." My daughter texts me. She's like, "Mom," she was scared. She got scared, but she thought to herself, because we're skeptics, and she's like, "You know what, Mom? But I checked all the kids because I thought maybe one of the kids was talking in their sleep and making conversation." And she said, "I checked every room and all of them were sound asleep." So needless to say, she's a little scared about it. And
you know what? For being not a paranormal podcast,
I know
this is really turning into...
We sure have a lot of stories.
Yeah.
But Honestly, but she's still very skeptical. But she said last night again, she heard the woman's voice again. God. So she said she's going to pay more attention because she's like, maybe it is one of the kids, because we always want to wish away what we hear. So she's hoping for the best, that it isn't something out there. She's just, but
Yikes.
yeah. But yeah, so we went to Medicine Bow, Wyoming, and checked out the Virginia.
Check it out.
And then we're also going to talk about your adventure in getting into the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah.
And that's the one I'm looking forward to.
That's my baby.
Yeah. And that's here in Los Angeles, California, by the way.
Yes.
And so Gina has a story that she's going to share with you on how she was able to stay at the Cecil Hotel. Yes. Even after it's been closed, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I know. I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah. So before we start, though, I want to shout out No Tracers podcast.
Yes.
These are the shirts. It says, "If you abandon it, we will come."
I love these shirts.
Yes. No Tracers.
Oh, wrong arm.
Yeah. No Tracers is a podcast run by Kay. And
just the letter K.
Just the letter K on YouTube.
Yes.
There's not a lot of podcasts out there that deal with urban exploration, and No Tracers is one of the only ones. I was actually a guest on there, almost 2 years ago. And it comes out every Friday, and it's such an interesting podcast. She interviews different urban explorers from all over the world.
You guys are like a community.
Yeah.
Like you guys, like a lot of you know each other, or
Yes.
just at least familiar.
Yes. And it's so interesting to hear all the people that have visited the same places that I have visited, and to get their take on it. And it's so different. Like we all experience different things. So,
and I love how you guys respect the property.
Yes.
Like you don't destroy it. You don't go there to take stuff from it. You leave it just how you found it.
And that's one of the rules in urban exploration, is a lot of times you find people don't give away the location of places as they explore. And if anybody has watched any YouTube videos or anything on urban exploration, and I see a lot in the comments, even on Instagram, like, "Oh my God, where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at?" And the reason you're not getting an answer from these people is because they don't want to out the location, because what happens is it becomes destroyed. People have no respect for this stuff, and it ends up being full of graffiti. It ends up
burned.
Literally, yeah. There's been
Stuff
so many
taken.
places. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these people that are into urban exploration are very passionate about it. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of them just don't give their location.
That's understandable.
Yeah. So, so just the letter K on YouTube and No Tracers podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into this. So we're going to talk about the Virginian Hotel first. I'm going to just give read a little bit of history on the hotel. So like Shannon said, it's in Medicine Bow, Wyoming. And this hotel was built in 1911, September 30th, 1911. It is in Medicine Bow, Wyoming. However, the construction started in 1901. So there's a 10-year gap. Yeah.
Wow.
So it
took a while.
Took a little while.
Yeah.
So it was built by the first mayor of Medicine Bow, whose name was August Grimm, and his partner, George Plummer.
Really, that's funny, Grimm.
Grimm, right? Yeah. So the hotel is thought to be named for the famous novel written in Medicine Bow, The Virginian, by Owen Wister. And upon its completion, it was the biggest hotel between Denver and Salt Lake City. And it's located midway between Laramie and Rawlins, Wyoming, on the old Lincoln Highway, US Route 30. So
that was a fun drive.
It was. And I was going to say, we visited so many things in between there. Yeah. So this building is massive in size for a town as small as Medicine Bow, which only has a population of 284.
I didn't know that it was that small. I mean, it looked that small, but I didn't realize that the population was that
considering
small.
We were in towns that were population 7. I don't know, 284 seems like booming to me.
This is a party town.
But that's neither here nor there, right? So the Virginian has served as a landmark for the town, as well as a historical landmark for the state of Wyoming for nearly 100 years. The building is 3.5 stories high and is constructed of concrete blocks containing sand drawn from the Medicine Bow River, which I found so fascinating.
Yes.
And I didn't find that out until after we were there. So there's that. The main floor has a small restaurant, or what they call an eating house.
Beautiful.
Yes. Oh my God. The inside of this place is just,
It's amazing.
oh God, drop dead gorgeous. Beautiful. So they call it the eating house. And then they have the formal Owen Wister dining room and the Shiloh Saloon, which still has bullet holes in it from shootouts from back in the day, which
Wow.
is...
I wish I would have known that ahead of time.
I know.
Because I would have probably tried to look for those bullet holes.
We were probably sitting right next to them, to be honest.
That's true.
Because
we were in the little
we were
saloon part,
everywhere
the
in that
part.
place.
Yeah. No, they were really, really nice. They allowed us just to walk
Oh my
around.
God. Yeah. These people were just like, this lady was just like, oh yeah, wherever you want to go.
Yeah, just walk
Make
around.
yourself at home.
Go upstairs for the
Upstairs,
rooms,
downstairs. Yeah,
walking
and-
up and down. We're gonna have pictures on our YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
and
The
you'll be
pictures
able to
of this
see.
place are mind blowing.
We're gonna show you so many pictures.
Yes.
But we were able to get into every single room
Every
as
room.
long as it wasn't occupied.
There was
by a guest.
I don't think there was any guests there when we were there, to be honest.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't think anybody
All
was
the doors
staying
were
there.
open
All of
because they
them were
tend to
open.
keep all the doors open. And there's a lot of stories about some of these rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this hotel has burgundy and gold wallpaper, and it has velvet drapes.
It sounds
You heard
a little
that correctly.
It sounds a little gaudy, but it was actually kind of beautiful.
It is. It's the vibe in there was just, you literally feel like you're back in the 1800s.
Yes.
You feel like you went back in time when you walk in there. The rooms have
Gina,
antique.
I just have to say, Gina made herself comfortable in a tub. You'll see the photo.
I did. I had to check out a bathtub.
She's like, I need to see what
I
it
need
felt
to
like
see
to
what it
soak in this
felt-
bathtub.
Yeah. Come on.
So,
So the rooms have antique brass beds and are heated by steam radiators. So they want you to like be able to really feel what it was like back then, I think, if you stay there. The suites are the only rooms that have private baths with clawfoot bathtubs, which I checked out. The other rooms have access to separate bathing facilities in the halls. So kind of like a hostel situation. These rooms also have nothing modern in them. Nothing. No phones, no TVs, nothing.
that's probably the beauty of it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would think so. I
You
don't know.
just
I don't
lay
know.
there at night.
I don't know. I mean, maybe for 1 or 2 nights, but then I'd be like, I don't know. I need to play my game on my phone.
I was going to say, you just lay there with your thoughts and the spirits.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll see. In 1957, 2 cement block extensions were added onto the hotel. Now, this is something that we didn't know until after the fact.
I don't even think we explored it or even looked
We
on that
didn't,
side
and
of
I
the
don't
hotel.
I don't even know where this part was. But in 1957, they added cement block extensions to the hotel, one of which was used for the hotel's owners, and now I think they both are used as rentals. You can rent those rooms, but they are all updated, we'll say. They have TVs, they have telephones, they have, bathrooms, they have everything. Everything's new. They have coffee makers, refrigerators, the whole 9 yards. In 1978, the Virginian was added to the National Register of Historic Places. In 1984, the hotel had a grand reopening after it had been completely re-renovated and restored to its current turn of the century decor.
I don't think they changed much in the original part.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because that place it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And it's literally just, when you say in the middle of nowhere, you just drive down a dirt road and it's just bam in your face.
Yeah. I mean, the highway's paved. Don't get us wrong.
Oh yeah.
But it's like just, it's a long drive. It's in the middle of nowhere.
It is. It's really in the middle of nowhere, but it's so beautiful. And the lady that we saw there, we walked in and she was just sitting there eating breakfast. And
So nice.
So nice. Oh yeah, look around, go over there, go up the stairs. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Can we take pictures? Video? Yeah.
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah.
We hung out in the little, now that I'm seeing it, I think the Shiloh Saloon we hung out in for a little bit. It's just, it's phenomenal. It was so much fun to check that place out. I would love to go back and stay there.
We did ask if they've seen or heard anything. I talked to one of the ladies there who was married, I believe, to the owner's son. I think that's what she had told me. But I had spoken to her, and she said she hasn't really had an experience, but her husband has.
Right.
And her husband won't be there at night by himself.
By himself, yeah.
Yeah. And I watched some YouTube videos on it and, heard a few stories about, sightings and stuff. So if you want to check that out, all you got to do is like Virginian Hotel,
Yeah, it's a super cool little place.
Yeah. It's, haunting or whatever. And you'll see people who've checked it out, who've investigated, who've have stories to tell. I know one of the stories is that no matter in one of the rooms, and we have a picture of the room, it's because I remember it because it had like a little Western motif bedspread over it. And no matter how much they make that bed, there's always looks like somebody's sitting there. Like there is an increase of a print. Yeah, and one of the guys was talking about a Bible. No matter where he moves it, it always ends up back on the bed open.
Yeah.
So there are definitely stories about it. So I wanted to share a few stories that I found on the internet about some of the hauntings that are there. So there are very prominent spirits that everybody says they see at this hotel. And the people who work in the hotel, they actually refer to all these spirits as our friends.
Our friends, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice, though.
Yeah. So all the staffs and regulars say, these are our friends. They inhabit it. They respect it. So, but there's one woman in particular that's very famous there, is called the Woman in Beige. So she's said to be dressed in the color beige. Her clothing is said to be reminiscent of the early 20th century. And she's described as tall, dark hair, and a prominent nose. And so the story goes is that she was waiting at the hotel for her fiance to come back east by train. When he didn't come, she was very distraught. She thought he wasn't going to show up. Something happened to him. So she ended up throwing herself out the third-story window.
Wow.
Yes. And so...
Dramatic much?
Yeah. So, and some guests also report hearing that loud crash sometimes at the end of the hallway. So, what happened is nothing had happened to him. He actually shows up a few days later.
Right.
But yeah,
wow.
But she ended up killing herself. And then also there's a report of one young children playing in the sitting room on the first floor. One child even scared one of the saloon regulars so badly he went from grumpy and drunk to stone cold sober in an instant. That's hilarious. Another prominent spirit is that of a former employee, Riley. Riley is kind and calming spirit who enjoys unwinding at his favorite bar stool. Oh, that's pretty cool. And that bar was really beautiful.
Oh,
yeah. It's super beautiful bar. The woodwork there in the original.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's an amazing place to visit.
It really is. And I think it's weird to be in a hotel where there's only stairs.
Yes.
There's no elevators.
No, you have to walk up the stairs.
Walk up. So we had to hoof it up. How many, three flights of stairs?
Yeah, they had like a second and third story.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit, at one point you were trying to leave me and I was like, Gina, don't leave.
Yeah.
Don't let me be here by myself to take pictures. You know?
We were there in the daytime. And
it was daytime, but yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like we were, going there in the dead of night and creeping around. But I do have to say, though, it did have a little, I don't know, I guess just knowing that it's considered like one of the most haunted hotels, and then to know that there were no visitors there, and it's just this lady and one other worker there sitting, you know, at the little eatery place eating her breakfast, and that was it.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And that's maybe what makes it just a little eerie. Your mind starts going in all different directions.
Yeah, of course.
So,
and we're up there, on these floors by ourselves. Nobody's up there.
Yeah.
We're just roaming around.
And a lot of these hotels have one spirit story or maybe two, but this one, it's
quite a few.
Yeah, friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
lots of friends.
Lots of friends.
There's another one that is also very prominent guest of the Virginian Hotel, and he's a cowboy.
Oh.
So they describe him as being very mischievous. So his name is Hank. And Hank is referred to affectionately by everyone in the Virginia. So they all call him Hank, right? He's described as a tall cowboy with an antique hat and a duster, a particular proclivity to push glasses off the table of his favorite place in the bar, a love for television, and an affinity to open doors for ladies as they reached for them.
He must be staying in the addition.
Thank you. Where was Hank?
Well, because they don't have any TVs.
They didn't have any, but I'm like thinking like,
where was he at?
where was Hank opening up the door for me when I was there?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We didn't get Hank.
Nobody did any of that.
I know. So, yeah, we didn't get any of that. So, but if you want to visit there, the residents of Medicine Bow are very, very friendly, very nice. If you ask them questions, they are more than happy to answer it. I feel like everywhere we went in Wyoming, it was like that. But definitely,
nice.
you know.
Very, very nice.
Yeah. Visited and, you know, ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
I kind
They're
of regret
all
that.
knowledgeable. Like, they all know, no matter how old or young. I feel like everybody that we spoke to in every town that we went to knew they had an answer for us.
Yeah. They had a story. Mm-hmm. I just regret not staying the night there.
At the Virginian?
At the Virginian.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It was sort of one of those things on our list where it was, I don't know why, maybe because we were just passing through so many towns in one day. We're trying to fit as many places in.
And I think there were other places that we really wanted to hit up, and we mapped this trip out for a couple times. We rerouted a couple times, but it was hard to, like, honestly, I feel like we were there for 9 days.
Yes.
But we hit up so many places.
Yeah, and I think
we
that
were on the go.
And we didn't know. I think this was kind of like the, you know, kind of getting to know everything and then saying, hey, that actually was way more interesting than we thought it was going to be. Yeah. Or that had way more stories to tell than we originally thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, just kind of those things where this was probably one of those places that, like, had a lot more history than we knew about.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm really excited about our second half right here.
Are you?
Getting into the Cecil.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to start it off and give us a little bit of history? Got a very haunting history.
Yes. Well, our Cecil,
I think it's become very popular in the last year, I think. With ghost adventures and, you know,
I think publicity.
Yeah.
And true crime. Mm-hmm. So with a lot of this true crime podcast popping up, you know, there's, you know, very recent crime that has occurred, or not. It's not even a crime. I can't even say it's a crime, just a mystery, or, you know, however people want to interpret the story of Elisa Lam.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of got the Cecil back into the forefront of people's minds and wanting to talk about it and share about it. But it has a long history.
It does. It goes way back. Way back to the Depression.
The hotel has been around for a really long time.
It has.
And I know you're going to get into the history of our Cecil Hotel before sharing with us your personal story with it. But I'm just going to share a few stories about some of the things that have happened there.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that it's unusual for hotels, because my husband at one point did work for the Marriott, and he has some stories to tell too that are very recent, you know, suicides, you know, people, you know, going there for that, and things happening at hotels. So it's not exclusive to just this one location.
Well, and for people who aren't familiar with Los Angeles or the Los Angeles area, this is in downtown LA on Skid Row.
Yes.
So it's not a great neighborhood.
No.
A lot of crime happening on the streets, a lot of homeless people, just not a good neighborhood, lots of drugs.
Yes.
And so it's just a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
it's not a place you want to go late at night and just hang out. Well, we're going to get into that.
Speak for yourself.
So, in 1927, and there's some discrepancy when the hotel was actually opened for guests. Some say 1924, 1927, but I'm just going to talk about the first death registered the Cecil Hotel. So that's way back in 1927. And it was a 52-year-old man named Percy Orman Cook. He took his own life because he couldn't reconnect with his wife and child. They were having issues, they were having problems, and they weren't reconciling. Mm-hmm. And so he ended up killing himself. So at that hotel. Then in 1931, 4 years later, there was another death. A man named James Willies checked in, and a week later he was found dead in his room. And so that's how he checked in, as James Willies. But he was actually identified as being 46-year-old W.K. Norian. So, yeah, another death, 1932, Benjamin Doddich. In September of 1932, a member of the cleaning staff found 25-year-old Benjamin Doddich after he had taken his own life in his room. And this isn't, like I said, it's not uncommon for people to go outside of their home or their residency, so that their family won't find them. They'd rather have a stranger find them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you do hear about a lot of these in hotels, and a lot of them aren't, on the news. We're not,
No, because I think it just happens more than people realize.
Yeah. It's sad.
The news would be consumed by all of these if everything was reported, I think,
Yeah. It's really sad. So in 1934, Sergeant Lewis D. Borden, Medical Army Corps, he, or they say Army Medical Corps, so if I'm saying it wrong, sorry, ended his life at the Cecil. It was thought he was struggling with bad health and wanted to die. He was only 53.
Dear God.
I know, that's a lot of these are suicides.
We're almost there.
No.
He's really young.
True.
That's really young.
Thank you. Before, when I was like 19, 20, I thought, oh my gosh, 53, I'm old. I'm 51 now. You know what? It's the prime of my life. No, you're just a few years behind me.
Yeah.
So in 1937, Grace E. Margro fell from the hotel's 9th-story window. Though she initially survived, after her fall was broken by telephone wires. But she died at the hospital later on.
Which is grueling.
I think that's more painful than just an instant. Like, you do that, and I think a lot of times people start that jump, and probably there's some regret on the way down.
Yeah.
And then to find out that, poor thing. And then in 1938, Roy Thompson, who had been a Cecil resident for a number of weeks, jumps from the top floor and was found on a neighboring building. Year later, 1939, a 39-year-old Navy officer, Irwin C. Neblett, died in his room. Then we have 1940, Dorothy Seeger, a teacher, was staying at the Cecil Hotel when she died in her room. They're not telling us what the death was. I'm sure maybe I can look for it.
And I'm sure in between these, there was,
others.
Who knows how many.
Yeah. And then this one found interesting. In 1944, a woman gave birth at the Cecil Hotel and killed her newborn.
Yeah.
She did it because she did not know she was pregnant until she went into labor. So she was staying there. She was 19. She was 19 years old. Her name was Dorothy Jean Purcell, and her boyfriend, 38-year-old Ben Levine, were staying at the hotel. That she went into labor. She had no idea she was pregnant, and she didn't want to wake up her boyfriend who was sleeping. When the baby was born, she thought the baby was dead when the baby was born.
Stillborn.
Yeah, she thought it was stillborn. So she threw it out the window. And it was later determined that she was mentally confused, and she was found not guilty of murder by reason of insanity.
Yeah.
But imagine the regret. Like, she thought the baby
was stillborn. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, she didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And that was a whole different time back then, too,
Absolutely. And she was only 19.
19 years old with 30-year-old man. Like, come on.
I know. He probably heard her in the bathroom moaning. And he's
I was like, forget it.
Don't wake me up.
Don't wake me up.
Yeah. In 1947, Robert Smith died after jumping from a 7th floor window at age 35. And then we have, in 1954, Helen Gurney. So in October 1954, Margaret Brown checked into the hotel. A week later, she died after jumping from the 7th floor. She was later identified as actually being 55-year-old Helen Gurney. the second person that checked in.
I think this was very common back then, especially for people that, you know, obviously were struggling with mental health. I think that was just a common thing, is to check in under, you know, and back then you could use whatever, like you could say your name was anything. They weren't going to, especially in a place like, you know, in a seedy neighborhood like that. I think it wasn't a big deal to
back then people
use
were
a different
paying,
name.
Yeah, they were paying cash. It's not like today when we have to show ID when we stay in a
this, show
room.
that.
Yeah, to prove who we are, right?
Yeah, so maybe if family members were reaching out and looking for them, they wouldn't be able to find them.
Yeah. So in 1962, we have Julia Frances Moore. So on February 11th, 1962, Julia Frances Moore, age 50, jumped from the window of her 8th floor room. And then again in 1962, a young woman called Pauline Auden had been fighting with her husband Dewey on the 9th floor. She jumped out the window to teach the guy a lesson.
What a lesson she taught him. Wow.
Unfortunately, she landed on a pedestrian.
She did.
And they were both killed instantly. His name was George. I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm sorry. Giannini, I believe, or
Some of the names are hard.
But they were both instantly killed. At first, they thought both of them had fallen out the window. But then they realized that George was found with his hands in his pockets. Yeah. And so they realized that when somebody falls, they're automatically, or jumps, they're going to try to do this with, like, kind of use their hands and try to break the fall or whatever it is. It's just a natural reaction. And not go down with just their hands in their
pockets. Yeah.
And then in 1964, this one is a murder that still to this day has not been solved. So 1964, Goldie Osgood lived in the Cecil Hotel. Her nickname was Pigeon Goldie because she liked to go down and feed the pigeons at
Pershing Square.
I didn't want to mispronounce it. She was very well known in the area. People knew who she was. And so one day, though, someone came into her room, attacked her in broad daylight, and she was sexually assaulted and killed. So, and that one still remains a mystery. Yeah. They do not know. I believe someone was questioned in that homicide, but they later released him, determined that he had nothing to do with it.
And remember, like, back in that time, there were no forensics. There was no DNA testing. I mean, I think fingerprints, if even that, was probably all they had. So they still haven't caught the person who did it. When I was reading the story, I was trying because they didn't see anybody go in and out of the room or the hotel. Yeah, guys, this one Shannon was trying to solve.
I was like, it has to be somebody who was staying in the hotel. If they didn't see somebody come and go, I was trying. But so, and then in 1975, there is a woman who's still unidentified. She died at the Cecil Hotel. They think she's around 23 years old, and she jumped from the 12th floor. She had registered at the hotel under the name of Allison Lowell, but her real name still isn't known. So those are some of the deaths that have happened there. There's and there's recent, the Lisa Lamb one.
There was, I think, the most recent one was, I want to say 2015, one after her death. There, a man jumped from, I want to say the 9th or the 10th floor.
Yes.
And hasn't been
identified. No. And it's so sad because he was young.
He was young.
He was in his 20s.
Yeah.
And
I was able to see the spot that he jumped from. And I want to say it was the 9th or the 10th floor.
Wow.
But yeah, he was young and
to just go identified. Just go missing and no
like
one
you just wonder
forward.
Like what you just got, like your family doesn't wonder where you're at or nobody misses you or.
But like we said, it's located on Skid Row.
Correct.
So a lot of these people, mental illness, whatever the reason why they're on the street, and they're disconnected from their family. Yeah. And maybe not in communication with them. So the family probably still thinks he's out there.
Right.
So that's really, really sad.
It is.
But I want to hear about your personal Cecil Hotel obsession and adventure.
Right.
So
because that's actually what it kind of turned into, was an obsession. It's been something that I've always really been fascinated with. And I think because, you know, it's right here. It's close to where we live. That I just kind of took advantage of, oh, I'll always be able to get in. I can go in whenever I want and no big deal. Well, then, you know, it closed and I kind of panicked like, oh my God, like I never got to go in and I never got to look around. I never got to do all the things. I never got to explore it. And
what was the main reason why you were so obsessed with this
so
hotel?
the main reason that I was obsessed with this hotel was, since I've been a child, growing up, my mom always had a fascination, was fascinated by serial killers, always watching documentaries, everything, reading books. And so, you know, I kind of got that from my mom. And so when the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, in 1984 and 85, he murdered here in Los Angeles. And I think it was his third or his fourth murder was by my house. And
that's scary.
It was terrifying. And I remember I was 11 years old and my parents were never, they weren't parents that were afraid. I felt like they never feared anything, you know. So to see my parents start to panic, it was very odd to me. And then to see my dad start to set up these like booby traps in my house. He had in our hallway, he had a ladder, a 6-foot ladder in our hallway, and he had bowling balls stacked up on the steps of this ladder. So if somebody were to come down my hallway, they would run into this ladder and knock down the bowling balls. And my dad was a drummer. And so he took about 50 drumsticks and he put them on the floors in front of the windows. And then he put plastic grocery bags on top of them. So if somebody were to try to come in our window, they would, number one, make a lot of noise,
yes,
but probably slip and fall. But our whole house for this whole summer was just one big booby trap.
It's funny you say that because I remember too when Richard Ramirez was going around, and I remember them saying that he liked to target homes that were near the freeway.
Yeah.
And they just assumed it was an easy getaway. It was a quick, fast way to just hop on the highway and just take off. And so I lived in Hawthorne at the time, and I lived right off, like near the 405 and Rosecrans in the neighborhood of Holly Glen. And I remember going to middle school and having the police come to our school and teach us how to walk home aware, because a lot of us were latchkey kids during this time.
Right, of course.
And that means
I think everybody was.
Yeah, for those little kiddos who don't know what that is, you know, we'd go home and our parents wouldn't be there. Yeah, we'd have the keys to go in and we would just kind of watch ourselves till parents came home from work. And I remember listening to how to walk home, and I just applied it. Like I was super vigilant. I would just be like, look around, have the key in between my fingers, you know. And
it was
just
a scary time.
Constantly looking. And I have to say that I still, when I went to college and still to this day walking out into a mall parking lot, I walk that same way.
Right.
I am hyper aware of what is around me because of Richard Ramirez. And that's crazy because like you, at the time I was just in middle school. Yeah. You were in elementary. I was in middle school, and just, you know, having that fear. It was such a fear. I thought that man was going to come out from behind a bush and just grab me every single day when I walked home from school. So I understand your dad's fear.
And you know, like I said, my parents, I mean, if they did fear things, they never, you know, made it be seen to me. They never made me fearful of anything. Yeah. Always very open, but to see them literally start to panic, you know, and then like you said, you know, it was said that he would attack people in houses by the freeway, and then at one point they said that he was attacking people in yellow houses, and my childhood home was yellow. Yes. So, you know, I think just all of that, and it was a blistering hot summer. Windows were always open. And at that time, like, you know, I remember being a child and falling asleep in the living room with our front door open. Yes. Our back windows open. Like nobody ever,
we don't lock our doors.
And so it was just, it was sheer madness.
Yeah.
So
it definitely changed the times.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't remember after that anybody leaving their doors just open.
No, I think
still
people,
to this day.
Yeah, I think people lived a little differently after him.
Yeah.
So I was, always so fascinated by him, and like not just him, but all serial killers, just what makes them do what they do. Mm-hmm. So I always read a lot of books, and I knew that he lived at the Cecil for about 6 months or so while he was, killing here in Los Angeles. And so I just thought, and you always hear people like, oh, it's so heavy. Like everything that, I walk by the front of the Cecil and it's just such a heavy feeling. And I walk into the lobby and it's beautiful, but I just feel this heaviness and this sadness. And so I was like, I'm going to make it my mission. Like I have to get into this place. I have to. So if there's any kids listening, please don't do this, because this is not a good thing. This is not a safe thing. Looking back, this was actually only 5 years ago that I did this. And looking back, like, this was very unsafe. This was not, but I was so determined. And when I put my mind to something, I'm like, I'm doing it. I don't care. I'm doing this. So, I would go out and I would go to the Cecil, and I would stand in front of the Cecil and wait for it. Now, mind you, the hotel was closed. It houses low income.
It wasn't being used as a hotel at this time.
It was not. You couldn't rent a room there, but people live there. People live in the Cecil, and they are low income housing. And a lot of these people are on drugs. A lot of these people have mental health issues. And so probably not people that you want to be friends with, except me. And so, so I would go and I would stand out in front of the Cecil, and I would wait for somebody to go in, walk into the lobby, and I would try to talk to them and I would try to befriend them, and I would ask them questions. And I did this, for about 7 months.
Yeah.
I met a couple people, and, some people talked to me, some people didn't. But like, these people didn't have cell phones. I was just like, can you just take a picture for me? And he's like, with what? I'm like, these people don't have cell phones. So I finally met this gentleman, and he lived at the Cecil, and he said to me, like, why do you want to go in here? Why? Like, you think it's haunted? Like, why? Like, what do you want? What do you want in here? So I explained to him, that I was just fascinated by the history of the hotel, and all I had been able to do is like peek through the window. And so he said, I have a cell phone. I'll take, he's like, I can't bring you in with me. He was a very nice man. He's like, I can't bring you in with me though. Like, we're not really allowed to have guests here. He said, but I'll, if you give me your phone number, I'll send you some pictures. I was like, okay, all right, cool. So he did. He texted me 2 or 3 pictures, one of the elevator and just like one of the hallway. And I was like, like, disappointment.
Yeah.
So then I said, hey, like, there's no way I could just like take a tour. And he's like, you know what? He's like, one of the people who work here, I'm not going to out anybody. I'm not giving anybody's name.
No one's name.
Nobody's there anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, he said, one of the security guards here is a super cool guy. He's like, let me talk to him and see if I could do something. So I was like, oh my God, my prayers have been answered. So he texted me a couple days later, and he's like, hey, I talked to the security guard, and he said, he's like, yeah, you can be my guest. You can come on in. I'm like, okay, cool. So then I'm telling my friend Megan and her husband about it. And she's like, Gina, and she's terrified. She wants nothing to do with this, by the way. She's nothing. And so she says to me, Gina, so you mean to tell me that you're going to be this man's guest in this hotel? Where's he going to take you? Like, is he going to give you a tour? Like, you're going to go to his room? Like, what are you doing exactly? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
She's making you aware of maybe the possibility this might not be very safe.
So then, I called the guy and I said, hey, look, what exactly are we doing? Like, what is this that you're setting up? And he's like, the security guard said that he'll give you a tour of the hotel. And I was like, okay, cool. So Megan's like, you're not going by yourself. She's like, I'm not going with you, but you're not going by yourself. So her husband, Abe, came with me, and he was my partner in crime. Like
We definitely have video of this.
Yeah, he was my partner
up on
in
YouTube.
crime. And so we went in, and the guy, the security guard was so cool. And, I walked in and I was like overwhelmed. I was completely overwhelmed because this was just like, oh my God, I'm in here. What do I do? Where do I go? And he's like, what do you want to see? And I'm like, everything. I want to see every single inch of this hotel. I want everything that you can. I want it all. He's like, okay, we'll start in the basement. And I was like, oh God. Oh God.
Maybe not there first. Can we just like ease into this?
So he kind of looked at me. He's like, do you want to go in the basement? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So we did. And Abe's just like, oh my God, Gina, I can't believe we're doing this. So we did. So we went into the basement, and this was a young kid. He was like 21 years old, and he knew a little bit of the history of the hotel. But I don't think he knew anything prior to him working there. When he first worked there, I don't think he knew anything.
Yeah.
So, so he showed us, down in the basement, and it was so fascinating. I have a video of it. There used to be a tunnel, and they could actually go from hotel to hotel.
Stop.
Underground. Yeah.
What would they use it for? Did he say?
No, he just said this is how they would go from hotel to hotel.
I wonder if it's
like
for supplies.
I think it's probably for supplies for like maybe the maintenance people. I don't know. So we went there. There is one place in there. It was kind of like a locker room, where I think maybe some people that work there would go to like shower. There's like a little table, but they have lockers on the sides, and it's supposed to be like a really, really haunted place in the hotel. And there've been a lot of people have had, different things happen to them down there. And so in the windowsill, there's a Bible that's been there. And it's always there. People just keep it there. Nobody likes to be in there by themselves. There's just like a chair that sits there. And there's no electricity down there. So, we had to use our flashlight, and it was a little creepy.
I was going to say a lot creepy.
Yeah. So he took me, the only places I weren't allowed to go was where the residents were. And that was on the second and the third floor. So I had done my research on the room numbers, which took me about the 7 months that I waited to get in. It's really hard to find certain, like the room numbers that some of these people see.
There's probably been like renovations done, room numbers change,
So the Night Stalker one was pretty easy to find. And Elisa Lam was in two different rooms. So we got into the elevator, and which was a little creepy at first, I gotta say, because
it's the same elevator.
If you've seen the elevator video, the Elisa Lam elevator video, and so we got in, and we just went floor to floor, and he took me all the way up to, so the hotel is 15 stories high. There's no 13th floor, so it's technically 14 stories. And the Night Stalker stayed on the 14th floor. And so I was like, I got to take something. Like, I got to take
the 14th floor, how they have it numbered, or the real 14th floor?
No, it's the 14th floor, how they have it numbered.
Okay.
The 15th floor is, there are a few rooms, but there's the penthouse on the 15th floor.
Okay.
Which I have video. I went into the penthouse too. And there's actually been a lot of paranormal activity in the 15th floor, in the penthouse. So we went, and I told Abe when I went there, I'm like, if I take anything, I want to take the number on the outside of the door.
Yes.
And so he's like, okay, like we'll take screwdrivers, like we're going to get it. So we go up there, and he only had, most of the doors were locked on the rooms. And so he's like, well, what room do you want to go into? And I said, I want to go into room 1419. He's like, okay, cool. So we get out of the elevator, and I start wiggling the doorknobs on all the doors, and they're locked. I'm like, wouldn't you know it? Just my luck.
And he didn't have a key to get into the doors, into the rooms.
So because part of the hotel is stay on Main, and part of it is the Cecil Hotel, Some are the little cards. The newer parts stay on main are the cards, and the upper floors are keys. So he only had keys to certain rooms.
Oh, okay.
Because these are, mind you, these are like old, like original rooms. Like these
it's
rooms
probably
are
the
old.
ones that had like you had to get the key for that room.
Correct.
Okay.
So we went and I start wiggling all the doorknobs and I'm like, damn, like these rooms are closed. So I see room 1421, 1420, blank door, 1418. And I'm like, wait, what? What's happening? There's no thing on the outside.
Somebody, well, they don't want to identify it, probably.
And I think somebody probably took it.
Yeah,
like
that's
you
true.
know.
But I see on your wall of keys, and nobody can see it in the shot I'm looking at. But as I'm looking,
let me grab it. So I was gifted these. I was gifted two things. So the gentleman that took me for my tour, he gave me the key tag for 1419. This is the stay on main key though.
Yes.
But then there was only one original Cecil Hotel key tag left, and it's for room 328, and he let me have it.
That's pretty cool.
This was the only one that was left. So he gave me that. So I have these. And I keep these near and dear to my heart. But yeah, I did get the key tag for the
1419. Yes.
Yeah, 1419. So I was a little bummed because, you know, the room number on the outside wasn't there. So I walk up to the door, just assuming that it's going to be locked. And lo and behold, it was the only door on the 14th floor that was unlocked. Yeah.
Shut up.
So I start jumping up and down. I'm like, Abe, it's open. Abe, it's open.
I don't know. Was he as excited as you were?
Oh, yeah. He
Oh,
did.
good.
No,
cool.
He was totally down for it. And so he had come on with me, like on some of my adventures, trying to meet people. He was pretty determined.
I know you didn't remember this when I mentioned it to you, but you did drag me one time out in front of the hotel while trying to talk to people.
I did. I drug a lot of people. Anytime I was in that area, I was like, hey, let's drive by the Cecil.
This is where we're stopping. Yeah, you did.
We're going to stop there.
I don't even think we were going for that. And you were like, we need to drive by the Cecil. Have you seen it? I said, I've never seen the Cecil. You're like, we're driving by it. I'm going to see if I can get in today. Like, if I could get in, just wait in the car and just, you know.
Pray for me.
Yeah, just wait for me. Like, but, you know, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, so while Abe and I were in here taking our tour, Megan was in the car. She was in the car waiting.
Good for Megan.
Because she
well, you know, somebody has to call the cops if you guys don't come back.
Of course.
So there's always got to be the lookout.
Right. So we got in, we opened the door, and we were so excited, and we're looking around, and you know, it's empty in there, and it's creepy, you know. It's creepy. It's old. So we took our videos, we took our pictures, and so we went to all the different floors and went to every room that I wanted to. We went to Elisa Lamb's room, and that's decorated a little differently because that's the stay on main part,
the newer part.
So yeah, they had some different decorations, and so we left. We left, and he's like, yeah, you know, let me know anytime you want to come back. No big deal. Like, I'm here, whatever. So we get in the car and I get in and I'm just like, I'm not satisfied, dude. Like this was super cool. Like, he took us to the rooftop. We saw the water tower.
Yes, you have video of that.
Yeah, we have video. We I wanted to like kind of retrace like how she would have got up there.
You did. You followed. I didn't know if that was the time that you had visited. I thought maybe it would have been a different time. That's why I didn't bring it up. But you actually have video of you following the security guard up to the rooftop, asking him, how did she get out here?
Yeah.
And then tracing it to the walking to the water towers and showing how you can physically reach it. How someone can get there. Because I know that was some people's questions, like, how did she get there?
Well, a lot of people think that maybe she could have gone out on the fire escape.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like in her condition,
It was an easy walk for you to
It
get
was
there.
an easy walk. It was just up a flight of stairs and out the door. And also at that time, I think, you know, everybody was so stuck on, you know, the door's locked, the door's locked, the door's alarmed. But the workers used to go up there and smoke on the rooftop because you couldn't smoke in the hotel. And so they would leave a towel to prop the door open.
So it
So
could
the door
have easily
potentially
been open.
Exactly.
And those alarms don't always work.
Exactly.
I mean, I
It's
can't
an
tell you.
old hotel.
Yeah, numerous times that I've walked out one that said, "Be wary, there's an alarm," and you just walk
Yeah.
out and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And even if it did, it rings for a little bit and then it stops.
And then it stops.
Yeah.
And again, here we are on Skid Row, and you know, like back in those days, like people used to OD in the hallway, and people would just step over them like nothing. Like people would die in the hallway and nothing, you know. So you think somebody's gonna react to an alarm going off, or whatever the case may be. So I think that that's the way that she got up there was. And I think
easy
she
straight
took,
walk.
I think she took herself there. I don't think anybody took her there. I think that.
And just so you guys know, the opinion expressed on this,
Right? Yeah, this is totally my opinion, and
her opinion.
you know, I know everybody has different views, and people want to make it. I feel like people want to make it something that maybe it's not. I think I think that Elisa Lam suffered from mental illness. I think she was having a breakdown of some sort. I think that she was alone, and which probably made things harder. And I think she took herself there in the midst of a meltdown and a breakdown.
Yeah.
I think she walked up there, and I don't think anybody, because, and here's the thing too, like I visited a couple times, well, a lot of times after, but I actually, I had my daughter come back with me, because once you get up to the roof, in order to get to the top of the water towers, you have to go up the side of the building, which is like this little ladder. So I was too afraid to do it. So I had my daughter
So she brings her daughter.
So my daughter did it. So I had her climb all the way to the top.
And you have video of that.
I had video of that.
Daughter
So
climbing the water
I
tower.
had my daughter climb to the top of the wall, where once you get to the top of this ladder, you would then jump and you would be to where the water towers are at. And once I saw everything that you had to do to get there, by no means could anybody put her, dead or alive, over their shoulder and carry somebody up there and then put her into the water tank. It's just not like.
Yeah. To hold on to her and to climb it with
there's
one
no way.
arm,
Yeah,
with one hand. Yeah.
There's no way. But again, this is my opinion. This is what, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, who knows? 6 months from now, we'll hear another podcast where the guy's like, I walked up with a dummy that weighed 140 pounds.
You
and
want
I
to go
walked it-
reenact it? Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
I mean, good on
who
you.
knows?
But I did as much as I could to try to, like, you know, just trace how she could have gone up there. I was really curious. So, so we did that. We went back a couple times, and I wanted to just look around, and I just felt like every time I would get home, I'd be like, oh my God, I didn't see this room, or I didn't see that room. I didn't see this room. So we went in all the rooms. And so then I said to him, Abe, I'm like, I think I'm going to ask him if we could stay the night there. He's like, all right, try it, you know, see what he says. Worst he could say is no.
Yeah.
So I did. I was like, hey, like, what are the chances, like, you know, like, I want to stay the night here. And he's like, you do? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, the only way I would be able to do it is, you know, I'm off at 11 o'clock.
PM or AM?
PM. So he worked like, you know,
3 to 11.
3 to 11.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know, you would have to come before I think they started doing like their checkout thing around 8 o'clock. So he's like, you'd have to come like around 6 or 7 in the evening, but then you couldn't leave until the following day around that time because, you know, so I'm like, so wait, so I'm going to be here for 24 hours straight, but there's going to be a security guard there that doesn't know that I'm in this hotel. And he was like, yeah,
exactly.
And so he said,
you're like, where do I sign up for this?
So I was like, okay. I'm like, like, please, like, don't feel pressured. Like, I don't want you to lose your job or anything. And he was like, no. He's like, you can, you know, he's like, the thing is though, you're going to have to like, whatever room you choose, you can't come out.
That's the room
like,
you got to stay in.
You got to stay in there.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We kind of like roamed around a little bit, but not a lot. We didn't take the elevator or anything like that. We went and hung out on the fire escape. And so,
what room did you choose to hang out in overnight?
so we stayed in the Night Stalker's room.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, we stayed on the 14th floor, and I chose that room too because, you know, we went back and forth. Do we want to stay in Elisa Lamb's room? Do we want to stay in Night Stalker's room? We chose that because Elisa Lamb stayed on the 4th floor. She was in room 412. And so that was very close to the residence.
Yeah.
And closer to the lobby, which is where the security guard was going to be. So I'm like, no, we need to be, you know, up. So we did. So we went in, we got a wagon and we came in, and
we have video of this.
Yeah.
When they're walking in.
We had our wagon, and we had an ice chest. We had a blow up mattress. We had a Ouija board.
Yes, because that's exactly what I would have thought to bring. Like, you know what? Not only do I want to stay in a serial killer's room, I want to summon demonic creatures in the middle of the night in a room I cannot get out of for 24 hours. Right. It sounds like a really good idea. I would have been totally on board for that.
I was more worried about if I was going to get hungry, what I was going to eat.
If anybody heard one of our last episode about my Ouija board experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably would have been a negative for me, but okay, you do you.
Yeah. So we did. So we went in, and, you know, we had our air compressor. We blew the mattress up, and we had some cleaning stuff. We cleaned the bathroom, because the toilet, like, ugh. You can see in some of the videos that it's horrific. You could tell nobody has been there for years. Like, nobody.
I'm surprised the water still worked and you were still able to use the restroom there.
We did.
That was a bonus.
Yeah, we had a little snafu at one point. Abe had to do a little bit of plumbing because our toilet backed up. So he had to do a little bit of plumbing. And so we just kind of like, actually, we didn't sleep at all. I'm not sure why we brought the blow-up mattress, but I think we thought we were going to, but we just like hung out and just we explored a lot there. Like, we took a lot of like GoPro videos, and just like we just hung out. We got bored at certain points, and because we didn't sleep at certain points, we got delirious.
I was going to say,
we got delirious, and we were just laughing, and like I was videotaping something at one point, and I was like, oh my God, I think it's an orb, and like it was ridiculous.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Any paranormal experience while you're there? Because we have seen people who will not be mentioned, you know, paranormal people who have researched this hotel and have claimed that there is a lot of activity in Richard Ramirez's room.
They say that there's a lot of activity in his room, and there's a lot of activity in Elisa Lamb's room.
Yeah. We want to be clear, though. Richard Ramirez never murdered.
He did not murder anybody in the room.
Yes.
No.
Never committed any crime in that room.
And he did not die at that hotel.
He did not die in that room.
He did not die at the hotel. No. He died on death row.
Yes.
Many moons later.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So this was in the 80s.
So even with your Ouija board.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Nothing was summoned. Happy to hear it.
Yeah, nothing. And it was so much fun to be able to do that. And
I'm glad you finally got to get in.
I did. It was like, I felt really, really accomplished.
I knew how much you wanted it and how hard you were trying.
Like, it just,
that I'm glad.
I feel with like certain things that I get really into and I investigate a lot, I feel this like weird attachment to it. And I feel like the Cecil Hotel is one of them, and the Los Feliz murder house is the other one.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, I have this just like attachment where I just like, I have to drive by there all the time and have to look at it. And I just like, I don't know. And so the Cecil was one of those things that just.
And just to be clear, it's not because you're into like, no, wow, these people were killed or they died there. No, it's really the history
of
area.
things. Yeah,
and,
everything that
really,
happened there.
Yeah, and really getting to the truth. So I just want to make it clear that's why we explore things, because we want to get to the truth of things.
Yeah, I want to see it with my own eyes.
You want to touch, feel, see it. You don't want to see it on Google. You don't want to. I mean, if we're able to see it and explore it and see it in person, take our own photos and stuff. That's really what we're there for.
Yeah.
But it's the history part of us for it. It's not, the actual crime itself or the actual, we're not seeking and never want to seek out the paranormal or death or anything. So just.
Yeah. And I know, a lot of people are very sensitive to these kinds of things. And I just, I guess I have a lot of people protecting me. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm not super
so
sensitive to that.
So besides the key things for souvenirs, were there any other souvenirs that you were able to get from the Cecil?
Yeah. So we went back and he was like, take whatever you want. Like, they're going to throw everything away. Like, this place has been closed and everything is like where it is. And like, it's going to be trashed at some point. And so, whatever you want. So I took, I got these keychains. I took a lamp. It finally stopped working, but I had a lamp on my nightstand for a long time. I took a velvet rope that they had from, they used to use to block off, form lines, I guess, down the sidewalk in the early 20s. It was beautiful.
How cool is that?
And then I have this lovely chair that I'm sitting on. Can they see it?
Yeah. You can see a little bit of it. Yeah, the fingers.
Yeah.
It's that hand chair that likes to...
I'll post a picture.
Yes, well, we have it up there.
Yeah, I'll post a picture. But this chair was the chair that was in Elisa Lamb's room.
That's so crazy that it's just like, just take it.
Yeah, so I did. I carried it out. You don't have to tell me twice.
You're like there with your U-Haul rental.
I know.
Just bring it on in, boys.
I know. Megan was in the car recording us bringing all this stuff out.
Oh my gosh, you have to share that video.
God. She's like, I can't even believe you guys are doing. You hear her just laughing like,
that's
oh my
awesome.
God. So I went back a couple times. After I went probably 4 or 5 times, and then we stayed the night, and then I went back after that. And so I've heard a lot of people, that have been there, that investigated, like, oh my God, like, I hear this during the night, I hear that during the night. So just to be clear, this place is old and rickety. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
The elevator is broken. So if you're hearing things during the night, the elevator goes up and down all night long.
Even without somebody in there.
With nobody in there, it goes up and down all night long. To me, that's
crazy.
not paranormal. That's just old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I don't know. Maybe, maybe the people, the ghosts have to get from floor to floor too.
I guess. I guess so. But nevertheless, I think, watching things, I watch everything, every video, every documentary, I listen to every podcast on it. And even if you just Google it, there's so many conflicting stories.
Discrepancies.
There is. And
again, the reason why we go.
Yeah. And one of them being the Black Dahlia.
Yes.
If you read on a lot of places say that was the last place that she was seen was at the bar at the Cecil Hotel, which is not true.
Yeah.
She frequented the bar at the Cecil Hotel, but that was not the last place that she was seen. And there's a gentleman by the name of Craig Owens, who I'm trying really hard to get on this podcast.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, he agreed to do it. We just have to find a date. But he is a historian, and he's written a book, which is right behind you if you could grab it. It's called
absolutely.
Haunted by History. I actually did a paranormal investigation of the Aztec Hotel with him about 4 or 5 years ago. My friend Amanda and I were lucky enough to be able to do that. And
I'm so excited to read this book.
So he has written this book, Haunted by History, and he's a historian. And this
it says
is what
volume
he does.
1. Is he coming out with other volumes, or
He
is there other volumes?
Yeah,
already?
no, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. He was actually just filmed something on the Cecil for the CW. It's like Unsolved Mysteries. It's the new Unsolved Mysteries on CW, and they did a whole thing on the Cecil. And so, what he does, and which I like, is he goes and he debunks all these things, and he, again, is a historian. So he has done so much research, and he just basically says, like, this is the truth and this is not. And
I love this. A man after my own heart.
Yeah.
Like with the history, because that's really why I like to visit these places.
Yeah.
Because
he's so fascinating.
just the history
He's so,
of it.
so fascinating. So I'm gonna try to get him on the podcast, and we're just trying to figure out a time for us to get our schedules.
Awesome.
Yeah. So he'll be on. I just don't know when, but yeah, go check it out. It's called Haunted by History. His name's Craig Owens, and it's an excellent book. Excellent book. So yeah. Okay. Well, so that is it.
Wow. Thank you. I love it. Every time you tell that story, I just, pick up something new every single time.
Right.
And I just thought it was awesome. There's
so
to
much.
Share it with
I feel
somebody.
like, I don't know. There's probably something I left out that I'll talk about and
at other times.
Another time. Yeah.
Things will pop up, but thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
And so, hope you guys all enjoyed this episode of the Virginian in the Cecil.
Yeah.
And where can they follow us, Gina?
They can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, 50 States of Madness. And we also have our Patreon, 50 States of Madness. Thank you. And a big, huge shout out to our executive producer, Mr. Dan Cleary, Rare From Radio. Give them a follow. They're an excellent podcast, him and Heidi.
Yes.
And we're on all podcast platforms.
Absolutely. We have a website too.
We have our website. Hopefully soon we'll be having merch.
Yes.
And we're going to be, you can find our podcast episodes up there too. And hopefully some merch soon.
Absolutely.
And some pictures and videos. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And hope you can join us next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.